So hello and welcome to another video, and welcome back to the Elite Carp Masters. I'm here with Owen and we've already done the draw. The rods are already fishing. We're not feeling very confident just yet. You know, it's been fishing rather tricky, this place at the moment. We've been closely watching the catch reports over the last few weeks, and to be honest, it's is it Old Pepper?
Yeah,
Old Pepper, which is the wider side of the lake. That tends to be where the fish have been coming from recently. It's not been doing a lot of bites. It may look glorious at the moment, but believe me, it's been dropping to minuses at night. I mean, we had a hard frost here this morning. Bright sunshine today, but we are closely watching the water. At the moment, we've put out some washing line rigs. You know, I'm on the coconut, the instant attract coconut, and you're on the bug, aren't you, Owen?
I'm on the bug on both rods at the minute. I might change over in a bit to the A2 baits again, the Banoffis, which obviously we all know they're used to it here. So
yeah. So yes, that's what we've done so far. I mean, we're not really 100% what we've done so far is the right thing, but we had to start somewhere. But that's where we're at. And for the draw, I mean, the draw wasn't in our favour, not at all. We come out 13th in the draw, and we got our 6th choice of peg. Now there's 2 lakes in this one. Christine Lake is in it, and Pepper, obviously, that's where we are. So there's 21 pairs in this match, and we come out 13th out of the 21. So as you can imagine, we wasn't too thrilled with what we got. However, we are in a peg that we're very familiar with. Owen has actually won out of this peg before, and last time me and Owen was in this peg, we were in peg 1, the Elite's peg 1. We come third, didn't we? So yeah. You know, we know the spots. However, last time when we fished it, you know, total different conditions, and the fish was moving about a lot more. At the moment, the fish are just staying up that other end, and we're hoping, there's already been a couple of fish out down that end, and we're hoping that it's going to start to push the fish down with them catching a few. We're just going to have to sit on his hands for a bit and assess the situation. We're going to keep a few floaters trickling out there. But how do you fancy our chances here, O?
I think if they push down with everyone catching the fish that they are up there at the minute, I mean, we've just seen the buggy go round, and it's obvious they're going to go weigh another one now on New Pepper. So as soon as they do that, then I'm hoping with a bit of disturbance, then it'll push them down here again. That's why we're trying to keep our lines out of the water. So hopefully then we can see them coming in, kind of thing, and intercept them as they're coming through. The guys in peg 2 and 3 that are down to our right are in the bay. They're peg 3 are fishing the washing line method on a couple of the rods, and then the others are out in the open. But peg 2 are not. They're fishing all their rods in the water, which will be beneficial for us, really bigly, because they will go where there's no pressure, and at the minute there's no pressure in front of us at all, because all our lines are out of the water. So fingers crossed, if they do come in, we've got a nice big feature in front of us, a nice big tree where you can get your bushwhacker pole under later in the dark.
Yes, mate, yeah. I mean, that is the plan we've sort of put together. There's a spot that's right under the branches there, and we're sort of saving that as the banker spot for a night time. But if we go by previous experience in this peg, all the action did tend to be in the afternoon, didn't it? Yeah. But we're just getting a bit worried at the moment, the fact that there's been a couple of fish out. But the real spanner in the works really is Lake Christine. I mean, given the time of year we're on, but on our walk round, especially this morning, it was like a jacuzzi in there. It was bubbling and fizzing everywhere. I mean, for anybody watching this that's not familiar with Christine, it's a very silty lake. That is very shallow, but when you've got sunshine like this, the fish are going to respond to that a lot quicker than what they are in here, certainly from my perspective anyway. But yeah, we've seen all that, you know. We thought that's why it was in our top choice, and we thought it was going to be clubbing over there, but there's only been 1 fish out over there so far. We're a couple of hours into the match now, but we did expect Bailiff Swim to run away with it, didn't we?
Yeah, I think everyone kind of, their aim was either Bailiffs, peg 9, Elite's peg 9 or peg 11 kind of thing, because it does have form, especially this time of year in the conditions that we've got. They're either going to be sat in the wind or they're going to be on the back of the wind, and that kind of, it's almost like what we call the Bermuda Triangle. All of those swims can intercept each other, and they can just push the fish around between them.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about, and bouncing in between them, and the fish just not getting down here at all. Previously, in the last couple of weeks, watching the catch reports, there has been the odd fish out in other swims. There was one actually come out in this bowl area, a real nice common. That was a good fish, wasn't it?
39.
A 39 common, yeah. So there's a glimmer of hope, and like you say, the fish that's been out so far, the 20 pounders, nothing big's been out yet. So we know that the big girl likes that bush over there, don't we?
Especially April time, 9 times out of 10 when she comes out from in front of us or just down to our right. So it is a good holding spot for her. And after we had her in the August match, she came out again in November at £49.
Yeah.
So she's put the weight on since obviously people have been allowed to fish again and put bait in. She's been on the munch and she's back up. With them getting ready to spawn, she could be back up in like the 52, 53 pound bracket at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, certainly from the perspective that I'm looking at it, I think we're going to struggle to win it, let's put it that way, but I'd be quite happy with biggest fish, wouldn't you, mate?
Yeah, we've certainly well within a chance. Yeah, well within a chance of catching a big 50 in here, or at least a couple of 40s kind of thing. There are resident fish that stay around in front of us and down in the bowl as well. They do like it down here, even in the winter they stay down in this area. But it's just obviously get them in front of us kind of thing. We'll know when they're there. We'll see them in front of us on 9 times out of 10. You'll see them before we actually catch them. Kind of like the August match, we saw the carrot, didn't we?
Yeah,
and we knew
did,
straight away. We got to start putting in the mixes, and they reacted to it.
Yeah, I mean, I brought plenty of riser pellets with me. You've just put some tuna oil on your biscuits as well, haven't you? So we're well prepared. Let's put it that way. The bushwhackers all there, ready to go. I mean, although I said, we're going to be up against it, it doesn't mean we're going to take the foot off the gas. We're going to win all out, aren't we, mate?
Yeah, no.
We really are going to work it between us. The thing that's like in the back of my mind at the moment, though, is should we be on the zigs? That's what I keep thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, the trouble is with this water they've got in front of us, it's like a channel where it filters it through. You put a tight line out there, you're just stopping the fish from coming through. I mean, if anything, if we want to do that on the right-hand rod, the one that's cutting this bay off to our right, we definitely don't want to be doing that off to our left. But we do know there's a couple of guys down sort of in 5 and 6 water and that. They've got a couple of zigs out, and they've also got washing lines out to the other side as well. So we're just going to have to play it by ear, I think.
I think if we do put a zig out, on the right hand side we'll get an indication of when they are moving down here.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure they're going to move down here at some point, especially with the wind pushing down here the way it is. And obviously there's no ripple down on 2. There's not much ripple in front of us, even though the wind's pushing in from 2 different directions, our left and right. It's just pushing into our margin. I'm highly confident they are going to turn up here at some point and either try and get past us or hopefully hold up in front of us.
Yeah.
Which will be ideal.
Yeah, well, and then the other thing that we've got to contend with is the amount of silverfish in here. There's a hell of a lot of bream, and if you put pellets in, you're just asking for trouble. I mean, I've gone slightly different to Owen on this one. I'm just sticking to the boilies, pure boilie. I'm not going to put any stick mix out or anything. I've left the pellets in the car. That's my assumption of it anyway.
You open the car door, the pellets are staying in here.
Yeah, but I mean, you've knocked up a bit of stick mix as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I've gone all out pellet as well, all out boilie as well at the minute, but I've got a stick mix ready for later because, as I said, when we walked around, you'll probably see on some of the footage when I was lowering the rigs in, you could really feel a nice hard donk, but as soon as you kind of pulled the rod to the side, it was chodding up. It wasn't as firm as what it felt when you initially drop a lead on it. So I'm kind of 50-50, is it worth still doing what we're doing now, cast it over the bank, walk around, lower it in, or is it going to be more beneficial for me to like cast it out and feel the lead down properly and really know I'm getting that donk and I'm on some firm stuff and not any choddy kind of rubbish where they're not going to want to feed.
I mean, I could tell you weren't happy straight away just from watching you from over here. I could tell that you wasn't quite 100% happy with it.
The usual spots, they're not as clean as what they usually are. I mean, I know this swim, I've fished it quite a lot. And the usual spots where you sit there and you can pull it along and you just get solid clay all the way along, you can feel it's nice and smooth. It's just, there's chod on it, there's bits of branch, there's leaf litter, there's some reeds on there and everything. Every time I pulled the lead up there was something different wrapped around it. So
I mean, where my right hand rod's actually fishing, there was actually a tree in there yesterday, wasn't there?
Yeah, we found a tree as we were walking around doing the pegging out with Mango and Ben and Barry.
Yeah.
We saw the tree leaning in the water, and it's probably been in there all winter because it took 5 of us to pull it out, and it had rigs on it and everything else, but it was covering the best spot on this peg, to be in all honesty, as well. We had the big girl and the cuttail. You had the cuttail common from last time.
Yeah, we had 2 fish off that spot, didn't we? Yeah.
It had to come out because it's not only that, it's for the fish safety as well. Somebody fishes to the edge of it and gets snagged up. There was no way you were ever going to pull a fish free of it, and you're either going to tear the mouths open or you're going to get a tethered fish on it. So best thing to do, as Mango said, was to get it out. So we got a bit of rope around it and wrenched it out yesterday. But again, that's probably stirred up the bottom and all the naturals that were hiding underneath it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden the carp can get in there and feed, and you've got your right hand rod on it, so fingers crossed.
I mean, you did see a fish round there when you was placing the rods, didn't you?
Yeah, there was certainly definitely a carp down on the left hand side underneath the tree as it was sulking underneath there. It was moving in there, and there was something else as well. I couldn't have been 100% whether or not it was a small grass carp or a half decent pike kind of thing, but without the Polaroids on, it was difficult to tell what it was. But the first one I saw was definitely a carp.
Yeah. I mean, going back to when I arrived late, early hours of the morning. It was like near enough 1 o'clock in the morning when I got here. But Owen was down here yesterday. You know, they had a barbecue up at the marquee and all that type of thing. But you had eyes on the lake, and you did actually see one roll yesterday, didn't you, off the edge of that bush?
Yeah,
there?
me and one of the other competitors, German, we were stood over there having a chinwag yesterday evening, and we saw one right off the end of the tree. And then I was up at just after 5 this morning, and I had a quick walk round with him again. He was up at the same time, and we were stood there, and we saw one roll just off the tree in the exact same spot again. So there's certainly fish around there. Whether or not they're on previous anglers' bait, we're not sure.
Yeah, but we have seen a coot coming up with the odd boilie in its beak, and it's not our bait as well. It was before we was actually got the rods out. So, you know, at the minute, it could go either way for us, but we're going to keep the foot on the gas. We're trying our best, and I reckon this afternoon will give us a better picture of what's actually going to happen for us. And not only that, see what else happens around the lake. But certainly them to the right of us, I think they're definitely going to struggle. It's just whether or not, you know, if we get a few fish in front of us, I think we'll do all right. We'll definitely have something, let's put it that way. But if we don't, we're going to be struggling.
Yeah.
That's my assumption. I don't know about you, mate, but that's where I'm at.
I think if they don't get down here, we could pick up the odd resident fish that are around the area, but I'm quite hopeful that they will turn up at some point.
Yeah.
And then we can pick them up. It's just as and when they turn up, and if we've got the time to capitalise on obviously the fish when they get here. So.
Yeah. I mean, normally the rules state on here, if you was coming fishing here, pleasure fishing, or you booked it out for yourself or whatever, you can actually use bait boats. So there is a lot of places where, you know, you can put rigs where you can't cast to and things like that on a normal basis. So, you know, it's trying to think a little bit outside the box on where you place your rigs, and I've got a lot of high hopes on putting that one tonight, placing it right under that bush. But I do think if we put one there now, it might just spook anything that might drift in. You know what I mean? We want to, if anything, we want to keep the line slack. That's why we're fishing a washing line. My left-hander, that is dead slack. That is, and just let anything that's going to come down drift in, and then replace everything a bit later on, and then reassess. So we'll have a bit of a catch-up later. So yeah. Let's see if we can make something happen, mate.
Yep. Get some lunch as well, I think.
Yeah, get some lunch. So yes, we shall speak to you very soon. Wish us luck. Well, good evening, and as you can see, not a lot has happened, I'm afraid. We've not got a lot to report on. Noddy's watching the rods for us though. He's going to keep me company tonight. I don't think anything's going to happen through the night. I mean, what do you think, Earl?
I think it's slowed up down on New Pepper now. They're not catching the fish anymore. There's not been anything out for a few hours now. So I think they're possibly on the move. I mean, next door's picked up a couple of tench, and the next guy up's had a pike, and then Pritchard and Mayo in 6 have got carp in front of them because they got that big one.
Yeah, they've seen that big one. Yeah.
So it's obvious they're moving down. It's just when they arrive to us, kind of thing, and if they hold here.
Yeah.
That'll be the turning point.
I tell you what, though, I'm really surprised that sun didn't bring them up. Or at least bring them down this end of the lake. As I mentioned, it's the shallow end of the lake, and we were sort of sitting around waiting for the afternoon to come, and the afternoon's been and passed now. The sun's setting, and it's become apparent we are going to struggle. We really are. I mean, they could just turn up at any time, you know. It only takes one bite, as they say, and that is very much the case in this water because of the fish that swim in there. And as I mentioned, you know, none of the big uns have been out yet. They've all been 20s that's been out. I think up to date, I think there's been 6 fish out of pepper, all on the new side, nothing down this end of the lake, other than the fact that, you know, a couple of tench and that pike that's been out. It actually looked like he nailed that pike fair and square and all, didn't it?
Well, when he brought it up to the surface, we were watching it, weren't we? And his gills flared up, which usually means that it's in the mouth. And they did hand it out, so I think it was genuinely in the mouth. But
I mean, the chaps to the right of us, they had a savage liner earlier, to the point where he picked the rod up and thought he was in.
he thought he stood there and hesitated for a minute, didn't he? Because I think he thought it was a coot because there was a moorhen or a coot going over the top of him.
Yeah.
And then his partner turned around and went, no, he's miles away from your rod, and he picked it up and hit into thin air. But the rig, he did say the rig had moved off the spot that it was on. So, but the peg we're in does have form of, if you don't pick them up early, they'll turn up in front of you, usually on the Saturday or the Saturday afternoon. You can pick them up. I mean, when a couple of Augusts ago, when I was in peg 4, and Hillier and Son were in this peg, and they didn't have anything till the Saturday evening, and then I think they picked up 4 or 5 fish in a few hours, and then they moved around into the bowl. So there is a good chance that it does have form, as Carl, when he come round earlier, he said exactly the same thing. If you don't pick them up quick out of this peg, they move on you usually at some point, and you just got to capitalise on when they do get here and get them quick.
Well, I'll hold on to that thought, let's put it that way, because it really is. It's hard to keep positive, especially in the environment and the situation that we're in. It's very hard to see the positive when you're not seeing a lot and you know that there's fish coming out down the other end of the lake, you know. You just see that gap getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But, you know, I mean, going into what we've done this evening, I have replaced the rod and I have put it right smack under there, you know. I mean, the only other way you could get it under there is be with a bait boat, and certainly in the mat situation with the boats not being allowed and that, so you know it is a little bit different. You know, just hope that the big girl's sitting under there. That's what we're hoping, in it, mate.
She comes across at some point. I say she is renowned for this peg, especially this time of year. Usually when she comes out, she'll be out of here. But I think at the start, before even the draw, we knew that New Pepper was going to do fish quick, because we could see, you know, I said, even though we're not seeing them down there, they're always going to be resident in bailiffs. It's just how they fish it and if they stay in bailiffs. And they've only had like 1 or 2 fish now. And, you know, I think, I can't remember which team it was, but I mean, they had 4 or 5 fish quickly off the bat when they were in there.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. I don't think they're holding up in any certain area at the minute. And certainly they had 24 hours of freedom without any lines in the water before we put our rods in.
Yeah.
So they are going to start looking for that sanctuary now where there's no lines or where there's a lot less activity than anywhere else around the lake.
It is a lot of pressure that the lake is seeing, especially when we've not long come out of lockdown as well. But prior to lockdown, you know, it was bailiffs that was doing all the fish again though, wasn't it? It's like them fish were just localised in that deeper water there. O told me about this deep gully, this deep hole that's there, and it always tends to be a hot spot, that. But again, going into this evening, I mean, I've not even touched my left hand rod. I'm very, very conscious of the amount of bait that we're putting in, because I feel like we are just fishing for that one bite at the moment. Literally, when I've replaced the rod, all I'm putting in there is 5 or 6 boilies. And the left hand rod, that went out with only 4 boilies around it, and I'm actually going to sit on it. I'm just leave that rod. I've replaced the right hand rod. I mean, what have you done this evening now with your rods?
I was on the bush, but where obviously you were going into there, I didn't want too many rods or too much pressure on that bush.
On that bush, yeah.
So I've come a good 15-20 feet out to the right and a good 6 foot off the margin, not just on that clay shelf. And then the other rod, I've kind of got it in between our right hand boundary, just halfway out, just to see, because they can come in right underneath your rod tips. They're renowned for it. So if we do start getting liners, then I know, you know, my right hand rod is only at 5 wraps and the far rod is 8 wraps. So if I'm getting liners on both of them, then I know they're closer in. But if I only get liners on, you know, my 8 wraps and I'm not getting them on the 5, I know they're between 5 and 6, 7, 8 wraps out.
Yeah.
So I can adjust it as and when. But I think it's just at the minute we're quite fortunate the fact that there's no big fish been out. There's none of the 30s been out yet.
Yeah.
And as you well know, and as most of the guys watching will know who know Pepper, if you're not on £40, one fish in here could put us in first place, no matter what.
Yeah.
And your first fish last time, peach at £38,
Yeah.
you know, or £39, wasn't she?
Yeah,
and then,
39, yeah.
And that was down in weight. And then the cut-tail common, that was well down in weight, but
Yeah,
that's back up over £30 now.
Is it?
So, you know, two of those fish, and we could be sitting here going, right, okay, let's kind of relax a bit. But the tricky thing's going to be for us and for a lot of the other anglers on the competition at the minute, where it is so slow, they're going to have to sit on their hands, and the people that don't, they are going to mess it up for themselves. That's going to be the main issue at the minute, is try and keep everything quiet and hope the fish are going to come in front of you.
Yeah. I mean, between us, with what we're doing, we have pretty much got this swim covered, all bases covered. You know, we're even like, you know, fishing for liners as such, little amounts of bait. There's nothing else we can do with this water apart from fish zigs, but there's just nothing that warrants putting zigs out at the moment.
I had that zig on for about 3 hours this afternoon, didn't I? I kind of had it in close, and then went long just to see if I was getting any liners, and there was nothing.
Yeah, well, part of that was just to see if they were passing through, wasn't it? That's the whole reason behind it. But
The good thing is, where we've positioned our brollies and our bibbies as well, is the fact we can see the bay round to our right, where 2 and 3 are, so we'll be able to see if the fish do move in there. Either of us are going to be able to see them because our brollies are facing that way, but we can also see out in front of us as well if they do start moving around. So kind of, you know, we'll know when, if they do get past us somehow, then we'll know that they've gotten past us, and that's when we can react, you know, and try and capitalise and pick them off, or at least stop them from going through. So
yeah, but I tell you what though, in the match situation, it doesn't help, you know, when a couple of other fish have been out. I was pulling my hair out earlier thinking, what can I do differently in that? And it turns out, you know, the best thing you can do in that situation is to sort of sit on your hands and not panic. You know, it's a big fish water, this, you know, they're not daft. They're fished for every single day of the week, they're pressured, and especially just coming out of lockdown, and they're seeing all this pressure at once, you know. You've just got to calm your nerves down and just relax into it. I mean, if we blank, we blank, but at least we know we've done everything correctly. I think that's my thoughts on the situation.
yeah, I mean, I've even got the right hand, that tight in the right hand margin, like we were saying earlier, where they can come right underneath your rod tips. I've even got a little bit of bait on that. I'm going to keep trickling the bait in there and just keep an eye on it. If we start seeing some fish, and where it's so tight to the reeds, we will see the fish. If they're on that spot, they'll start knocking those reeds around, and we'll know they're in there.
Yeah.
And that's when we can kind of lower a rig on them. But it mainly seems to be night time, they come round tight underneath your rod tips.
Yeah.
And I think one of us will start, where we're slack lining so much,
Yeah,
one of us is going to get a
definitely,
liner,
yeah.
and then we're going to know that they're underneath us.
Yeah. I mean, the other noticeable thing that I'm noticing is, like, through most of the day we haven't seen hardly any like small fish activity, and now they're starting to top around and things like that. So you just never know, do you? Well, I honestly, I do think we're doing the right thing. Oh,
He's away. Yes, he's away. Go, go, go.
well, there you go then. It's not often you get a take live on camera, but I take back everything I just said, because this one marks us on the scoreboards. So yes, the worry is over now. Hopefully we can capitalise on that. The rod has gone straight back out under that bush again, and hopefully another one. hopefully Big Bad Barry. This one's just gone £12.5, so you know it's not the biggest fish in the lake, but I'm happy with that. Are you, mate?
Yeah, definitely. Live for the cameras as well, and it's certainly a stunning little fish.
Yeah, he is a stunning little fish. So yeah, slip you back. Mwah! Well, good morning, and it has been a frosty morning, let me tell you. It has been absolutely Baltic this morning. I think we got up around about 5:30 time. Everything was white over, and we've waited to speak to you, most of all so we can get a bit of an update as to what's going on around the lake. And it is starting to run away from us, but we'll touch on that in a minute. We'll kick it back to last night. And the one thing that I didn't say about that fish that I had last night is whilst I was playing the fish, it picked up a trailer that was coming out the tree on the opposite bush. And this morning, first of all, we've looked across there, and this piece of line is just cutting right across the spot. I mean, we've been round and removed it, and that is the reminiscence of it. There's blooming tubing, lead clip, lead, everything on there. So that was running across the spot. Whether that made a difference or not, I don't know, but it is very obvious that we're just picking up the stragglers. I mean, you've just looked at the update,
Yeah.
and there's been another, like, God, 5-6 fish out. And the interesting thing is the backing off of the wind and pushing down into peg 10. I mean, you know a lot about peg 10, don't you?
Yeah, I've placed in there before, and I won my UK Carp singles match in there as well. They do look for where there's no fishing pressure, where there's no lines kind of thing, and 9 times out of 10 they will head for that area first. But usually it's on when you've got a west or a southwesterly wind, they'll head down there. It's a very unusual wind for them to actually go anywhere near there. Yeah. Usually they'd either head around for bailiffs or they'd head up this side of the lake, just because the way the wind direction is, you've always got those clear spots where there is no wind. And on a cold wind, 9 times out of 10 they'll sit on the back of it. And I think maybe what they've done is they've just headed over to 10's margin. And as we saw on the walk round yesterday morning, before you had that nice clear spot, you had a good 15-20 yards, didn't you, where there was no wind touching the water. And I think it's Ben Banner, he's in there. He's had a couple of fish now, 2 or 3 fish. Bottom's a 27. Peg 9's done, I think, a 30 now. Yeah,
first 30's been out.
And then Christine's had a few more fish, kind of where we expected them, and our first pick was peg 21. They've had a few overnight. I think they've had 4 now. And I think 15's picked up another couple of small ones as well. And unfortunately, you've lost the smallest fish prize at the minute.
Because there's been a smaller. Koi. Yeah. But I mean, the thing that's going through in our minds at the moment is peg 10 was on our list. We could have gone in peg 10, but it's very much one of them swims where they're in there or they're not. You know what I mean? You're either blank or you have it away. And at the minute, you know, if they keep them fish down there, we're going to struggle. I mean, everything so far, it's all been on new pepper. We're the only ones to catch on this side of the lake.
There was one out of peg 5, wasn't there?
Oh, peg 5.
Peg 5 weighed one.
Yeah. So again, we're just picking up the stragglers here. We've just got to blooming do us best. I mean, seeing that line going across the spot this morning, we was up, got that sorted, and believe me, my hands was absolutely dropping off shipping that pole in and out of there. but we've just had to do it in the hopes that something turns up today. It's forecast for another bright day. It's going to warm up a bit. The cloud is a bit intermittent. I do apologise for the way it's picking up on the camera, but I am in manual mode, so I'm not able to change it. But where's your thoughts? What do you think is going to happen?
I'm really sure that your right hand rod under that bush. Now we've seen that line. Unfortunately, with the light conditions last night after we had that fish, when we shipped it back out there, we couldn't see it. It was too dark. You couldn't see the line reflecting off the sunlight. And then, as soon as we woken up this morning, where the wind's kind of pushing around everywhere, it is pushing across a little bit of algae. And our lines this morning were certainly covered in it, weren't they? And you could just see the line reflecting off the tree, and it was going at an angle straight across the front where you lowered that rig in last night. I think that's hampered us. I'm pretty sure we would have had another fish off there last night. And where you positioned it, where I walked around earlier and watched you put it in there, you went that little bit extra further. There's no line in there now. I'm really confident that rod will go today.
Yeah.
I really am. They do like it under there, and it is a horn.
I think if you're right, if a fish turns up and it heads down over there, it's game over for it. That's the way I feel right now. I'm really confident in that spot, and especially with you watching it in as well. Yeah. We can't do anything better than what we're doing, let's put it that way. And not only that, it's nice to get confidence in the bait as well, getting that first bite under the belt. The coconut cream, it's a proven bait. That it's an instant attract bait, but it's new to me, that bait. It's the first time I've used that bait, so to gain a bit of confidence in that, it's sort of calmed my nerves down. And the only thing we can really hope for is that the fish back off the pressure, but as far as I see it at the moment, with the water temperature being the way it is, there's just nothing to really warrant them coming up here at the moment. We're sitting here, I'm certainly sitting here thinking we're not going to win, but we've just got to bang one big one out. If we bang one big one out, then we'll certainly get up there on the scoreboard.
I think it's still definitely all to play for. Now they're catching fish down there. I think yesterday they started off, they picked a few fish off and then it dropped. And I think what happened was the guys who picked up the fish haven't picked any more up, apart from 9, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think what's happened is the guys in bailiff, they've pushed out of bailiffs now, otherwise they definitely would have had some more by now. I think they've moved over, looked in 10, and Ben Banner and that have caught a couple out of 10.
Couple,
Then 11's caught a couple, and now all of a sudden I think they're going to realise there's nowhere here where there's no lines in the water. And that's when they will, 9 times out of 10, they will head down here.
Yeah.
And no matter what the conditions, they will go where there's no lines in the water and where there's a lot less pressure and disturbance. And at the minute, we're keeping it down. All the guys around us, they're not casting round. They're not doing anything wrong at all. They're doing exactly what we're doing. We're keeping it to a minimum of disturbance. And I just think it's only a matter of time before, fingers crossed, they do turn up down here.
Yeah, well, I know you've got a lot more experience on this lake than me, especially in a match environment. Anyway, it's only my second time fishing here with you, isn't it? So,
yeah. It is still wintry conditions. The way they're obviously behaving and moving around at the minute, especially with obviously Carl and Sean, when they had that big girl sat there in the afternoon sunning herself in that reed, and she wouldn't move. They were stood over her. They put a rig in front of her and everything. Now she just didn't move. And to me, that's the big girls are not in that kind of mood yet, whereas before in the matches we've hit it right. We've hit it on the weekends where they've picked up, they've fed, and it's just gone absolutely radio rental, that everyone's caught, and most pairs have caught, and the bigger fish have been out, whereas this time there's only 130 out. A lot of the fish that are getting caught are those smaller fish.
Oh, the smaller ones,
and
yeah.
With the weather's gone up by 2 degrees it's forecast to be 2 degrees warmer today, and certainly 2 degrees warmer tonight as well, and I think that could have a really good impact if that does happen on us. We've peg 4 saw a fish. I was stood in the swim. I heard the aftermath of it, and instantly they were stood up watching, looked where it was, and they've put the baiting pole straight out and on top of it. It was 3/4 of the way out, kind of on our boundary almost. So to me, and for peg 5 to pick up a fish as well, to me that it signifies that they're moving down here.
Yeah.
And the ripple's now picked up. As we've been talking, I can see the ripple coming through now, whereas an hour ago it was flat calm in the bay, and now it's pushing down on our right hand side, and it's gone flat calm in the bay to our right in front of peg 2 and 3 as well. and it is a shallower end of the lake, and it will always warm up quicker. We've got an inlet down in the bay down on our right that comes in from the river, so that's always going to keep the water temperature obviously coming up.
Yeah.
And I am really hopeful we are going to see some fish today. I mean, we've got the mixers ready. It is cold, but it's shallow enough that I think if they're coming around mid-water, they're going to know the mixers are up there, and we could pick one up off the top. But I think at the minute our main spot is going to be underneath that bush.
Yeah, definitely.
And the margins, and possibly down on my right hand. I've lowered one down there while there's no one walking around and that lot. And that's, that won it for a team in here once, just lowering it in, not even half a wrap out. As Ollie would say, it's not even half a wrap. It's right underneath your rod tips, just slack lined it now on a nice little gravel spot. And it's just, the traps are set. It's just when they come, especially your rod, with those white baits over the clay over there. I mean, I stood there and watched them fall through the water, and it looked perfect. The drop, everything. I'd put money on we're going to have a fish off that today.
Yeah.
Really would.
Yeah. I mean, as well, when you look at the conditions we've got, the sun rises behind us. I mean, that bush over there, it gets the sun straight away. As soon as that sun's out, it's beaming down on that bush. And the only consolation we can take with Peg 5 catching a fish is it indicates something's on its way down, and obviously seeing a fish down there.
Yeah.
But then again, we was kind of thinking like that yesterday, but it turns out the fish went the opposite way down into Peg 10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think so. I think the majority of them that must have been sat in open water in front of bailiffs did head down towards 10, because they picked up fish this morning. And when I've picked up fish there in one of the previous matches when I placed second, I picked up nearly £160 of carp on the first day.
Yeah.
And as soon as that happened, they moved in front of Chris Hillier and Son, and they done the right thing. They kept one rod on a spot that was working, and they didn't spook the fish. Now, if Peg 11 starts casting around on the boundary and pushes them out, and they spook out Peg 10, there's nowhere for them to go, because they've already been caught out at 9, and they've already been caught out bailiff, so they know there's people fishing in there. The next choice is for them to head to newer water, and that will be down this end where a lot of the bigger fish probably haven't been all winter yet. They probably haven't been down here. Probably haven't been down here and explored it yet, and with the sun up and everything else, the signs are looking good that they might start moving down here, especially because this is where they like it. The big girl and a lot of the bigger fish, they come down here ready to spawn in that lot. And the naturals we saw yesterday with the swallows and everything, didn't we? They were going. It got to about 2-3 o'clock, and they were in front of us, and they were on a hatch. And then this morning on your bivvy, there were certainly mosquitoes.
I've seen the first mosquito of the year.
So that's a good indication that obviously everything's starting to hatch and wake up a little bit now. And with that activity, I am really hopeful for today. At some point, we're going to see a few fish start moving down here now.
Yeah. But anyway, that's where we're up to, we are trying our very best. But in the meantime, if anything does happen, you'll be first to know about it. We'll keep them cameras rolling today. We'll keep you updated with changes that we're going to be making. But most of all, we're just fingers crossed them fish start to move down here. Even if it's not in numbers, just a group of fish moving. I'm pretty confident we'll have another.
Yeah, the traps are set where the usual patrol routes are and where we can see them. We're going to get indications if they're coming through mid-water or halfway out on the deck. One of us is going to get liners. I mean, I've gone back onto the washing line on that far margin.
Yeah.
Certainly some
you're on a spot that you know quite well, really, aren't you?
Yeah, no, that rod is definitely one of the banking rods. It's one of those. If the fish are in that snag, if you don't pick them up, or if they're coming in from our right hand side out of Peg 2 and 3, I'm going to pick them up on one of my 2 rods, and we're going to know that they're about. It's just a matter of when they move and where they move from, kind of thing. We'll have an indication.
Yeah. And the only other thing that I have changed is my left hand rod. I mean, that's been sitting out there on a pop-up, and it's been sitting quite short of the bramble bushes. But obviously picking that one up so far back, where the brambles are over there, there's a massive undercut. I've gone right in, I've switched that to a bottom bait, took the pop-up off, and I've gone literally right in and dropped it right next to the bank. So, we'll see how that one goes. But for now, I'm going to flick the camera off, and we shall keep you posted. Wish us luck. good afternoon, and as you can probably tell, the sun is absolutely beating down on us at the moment. All today I've been absolutely freezing. The sun's been behind us, but now it's in front of us. It's absolutely baking. I've had to start taking some layers off. But I tell you what, the other end of the lake is starting to run away with it. In particular, Peg 10, Ben Banner and his partner, they've had a couple of decent fish down there now. I mean, around the lake down there's been a few 30s out, a couple of 37s, but up here we're still really struggling. But one has snuck past us because Peg 2 had a 21 out as well, Kieran Duff and his dad. So you know, all we're doing at the moment is just sitting on our hands. We know we've got them traps right. But I've just flicked the camera on because I've just seen my first fish, and it come in really close, literally half a rod length out, and Owen's got that covered as well on that inside rod. I had an occurrence about half an hour ago where the bobbin just like pulled up and hit the rod, and then I seen a splash in the margin, so it makes me think there's a couple of fish drifted through. I mean, if that carries on happening and they're coming in short and not long like they usually do down here, we're going to have to put a line across. We're going to have to sacrifice a rod and put a line across to stop them in the tracks. Otherwise the fish will just end up in that bowl and we'll not even get a look in. But I do want to reset that rod that's under the bush. I mean, when we reset it this morning, Owen actually went round there and watched me in with the pole and dropped it in there. But you just never know when you're dropping it like that, because we're not, you know, putting a lead out there and feeling the bottom and that. I mean, that line that we pulled out of there from yesterday, I mean, I had no idea that was there until I hooked that fish. But if you're interested on the rigs and baits and that I'm using, obviously I've mentioned I'm using the coconut creams, but the rig I'm using, it's a rig I've got a huge confidence in. It's the Take Anywhere rig, and again I'm fishing that with the size 6 claw. I absolutely love that pattern at the moment. As long as you've got a nice kicker on there, the hook holds I've been getting with that since I started using it, it's just been phenomenal. And I've huge confidence in this rig, I really have. I mean, if you are I know you can't see it, I know I'm holding it up like a dildo, but if you are interested on learning how to tie this rig, the link is in the description box below. That's a bit of a how-to guide. I don't want to bore you guys that know what you're doing and that type of thing, but just for information purposes, that's what I'm using. It's a £25 skin link. It tends to blend in well with this colour water here. It's a matte finish, that, and keeping everything pinned down, mega slack lines, and that's the tactics. I know we're not doing very well, but if there's a chance and any opportunity that them fish move down here, I'm certain we've got them covered. And just the odd indication, I mean, since I flicked the camera on this morning, we had that update, the only other thing that's really happened between sort of me and where the fish are getting caught is Sean Mayo lost one. He reckons it were a good fish as well. He actually wasn't on the rods at the time, but his partner was there, Carl Pritchard. He lifted into the fish, and by the time Sean got there the fish was off, so devastating for them. But you know, after hearing that news, we was convinced that the pattern and what Owen knows about the lake, it was just going to come into motion with the fish starting to move down here. But as of yet, you know, I'm sitting here and I suppose it sort of highlights, you know, the effects of the other side of the match, how it does your head in and things like that, and that's literally how I'm feeling right now. I'm ready for pulling my hair out, if I'm being honest, but I just know not to disturb it. It's one of them waters where too much disturbance is going to ruin it. It really is. But yeah, it's a good one. It is good. You know, a lot of times when you see these type of videos in the elites or anywhere else for that matter, you see all the highlights of the good stuff. So I suppose it's good to highlight the bad things that's happening. And believe me, sitting here now, I'm thinking if it doesn't happen this afternoon, our chances are absolutely gone. I mean, the good thing that we've got to hold on to at the moment is sort of between second and third. There's not much between it, but there's a big gap between first and second, you know. So one big fish will put us right up there, second or third, you know, with how it is at the moment. So we've got that to hold on to, you know, and the tactics that I'm certainly employing, it's a big fish method. It's a method which I fish a lot, a hell of a lot. So, you know, it's all to play for still. We're not giving up, not until that fat lady sings anyway. And the fat lady's at home, so we'll keep trying. Oh, I don't know. I see Owen laughing behind the camera. He's absolutely pissing himself at that one. Last time I said that to the camera, the amount of comments I got, it was really funny. And the missus actually watched it as well. And she goes, "Oh, you cheeky ton." But yeah, the spirits are still high. I must admit, I've been feeling quite down, you know, sitting here waiting for that sign. And now I've sort of like had an indication on a rod. I've actually seen a fish pass, you know. I feel like we could possibly be in with a chance now. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to win it. By nowhere near winning it, to be honest. I think Ben will down in peg 10 will have a few more fish tonight, because the fish that he has been having has been through the night. I mean, Owen actually rang him earlier and he said it was like a dolphin show down there last night. So, you know, we're setting up here and we ain't seen nothing show all day. It's pretty pants, but that's what it is, and I shall keep you updated. Hopefully the next time you see us, it'll be me or Owen with a big fat fish in our hands, smiling our faces off. And there's still the big fish prize to go for, so here's hoping. Well, good evening, and as you can see, we are sat in the bivvy under the twilight right now. That bite time has been and past, I'm afraid. Peg 10 are absolutely running away with it down there. It is like a dolphin show. You've just been on the phone to him, haven't you?
Yeah, I've just been on the phone to Martin, and he said literally while I was on the phone to him for about 5 minutes, all you could hear in the background was Ben Banner going, "Look at the size of that one, look at the size of that one." And they've had the carrot down there. And as you probably saw in last August one, wherever the carrot goes, big girl goes. And of course, sure enough, they've seen her down there all day today. And yeah, he reckons they got about 40-50 fish just sat in that corner tight, right on the inlet.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the key, is that warm water coming in. It's held them down there. And they fished it right.
Yeah, when the last scores went up, they was in front on £144, and they've had another double run since then, another couple of 20s. It's looking set for them to really run away with it tonight. There was a lot of fish backed up in that corner as well, not just the showing of the dolphins, you know, all that lot, but before that there was actually physically seeing them all shoaled up in that corner. And again, we've just stuck to our guns. I mean, I've replaced that one under the tree just in the hopes. We did see another couple of fish pass through though, didn't we?
Yeah, saw a couple come through close in under the rod tip. So.
But it is literally picking up the stragglers down this end, and you know, we've done as best, and it is all on the luck of the draw. I don't care what anybody says, you know, but saying that, you know, peg 10 wasn't high up there in our list, so even if we'd have come out up there, we still wouldn't have been, you know, sitting here winning, let's put it that way. So
no, peg 10's always up there for me because it's one of my favourite pegs and I know it very well and know how to fish it well. But on the wind that we've got, the cold wind, I've never known them to go in there in numbers. There's always been some resonant fish in there. They've never kind of got in there. Usually you need a westerly wind for them to go in the way they have this time. But I think with the angling pressure, the way Ben's fished it, I mean, he didn't put his rods out until gone 10 o'clock in the evening, and the match started at midday. Everyone else was casting round, finding spots. He's just sat on his hands, done it right. They've shown up in front of him, and he's already been ready to put rod over to the far margin. And he hasn't even cast a rod in. Well, I say that, he cast a rod in earlier on to try and pick some off of his boundary. And it slowed up for him for a while, and he'd done the right thing. He reeled it back in, gave it a little rest, and then started fishing the washing line again. And they've just run away with it. They've only fished a rod each, and they're just taking it in turns.
Yeah.
You know, and as they said, he just said a minute ago, the left-hand rod's going, then the right-hand rod's going. So they're obviously picking at every single fish that comes out of that bay. They're just picking them up.
Yeah, and it certainly seems like the other fish that are getting caught in that area, it just seems to keep pushing more down there. Or if some drift out, the peg next door will catch one just on the boundary, bounce them straight back again. And to be honest, we was kind of thinking we were going to end up at one end or the other, and Peg 10 just wasn't the equation. We thought with the forecast that we've got, the warm sun, the wind direction, all that in with it, we just thought they were going to end up down this end of the lake at some point, and it just hasn't happened. We've got it wrong. But then again, coming out 13th in the draw, we had like 21, 15, and then it was bailiffs. And I think if we'd have come out in that top three, it might have been a different story, but still, with what's happened, we still wouldn't have won it. But them in bailiffs, they've really fluffed it up, in my opinion. They've lost like 3, maybe 4 fish now.
Yeah.
Although they have landed a few fish as well, but it could have been a lot different for them. Us sitting back looking at that, thinking that was our third choice of swim, we could have still been in with some sort of contention if we'd have come out higher up in the draw.
I know the man who's in 10. He is a good angler. I don't know if he's actually fished here before. I know he hasn't fished in the elites before. He is a good angler, and there is certain ways you approach bailiffs and certain ways you don't approach bailiffs. And to lose 3 fish is really unlucky for him. And today we heard, like, obviously one of those fish was one of the big A team. It was one of the 40s. Yeah. So for him to lose that in a match, especially, it's gutting, considering there hasn't been a 40 out yet. That could have been biggest fish, which he always carries a prize on the elites anyway. So
I wasn't insinuating the bad anglers or anything. I'm just saying that
it's unlucky for him.
Fluffed it for dropping 3 fish, because they could have been quite easily sat in second place right now.
Second, or you don't know what the other 2 fish were. They could be up there, giving them Ben Banner a run for their money kind of thing. But Banner and Lamble have certainly run away with it so far.
As it stands at the moment, no 40s have been caught, but there has been quite a few high 30s come out, haven't there? Yeah. 37. I think 38's the biggest in it.
Yeah, I think 38 was at Peg 8. I think they had a 38 this morning.
So that's in contention for the biggest fish. I think that's the peaches, the one that I had last time. But that's yet to be confirmed. So the only thing we can sort of do is just hope that a big 40-pounder comes along and we get biggest fish prize, eh?
Yeah, no, that's it. Cuttail's been out as well, hasn't she? When you had in August, she was out. Yeah,
that's been out.
It was at peg 11 earlier. So we've done a couple of different things to what we have before, and kind of against the norm. I've gone with a margin rod where we saw a little bit of activity, and certainly where they're passing through, we came up with the idea of try put a little bit of bait in there to try and stop them in their tracks. Sort of crumbed up about 100 boilies and put a bit of liquid on top kind of thing, and then put that out there on the spot, and I'm still fishing on that. And we've now seen a fish, while we were eating our Chinese, wasn't we? A fish has rolled twice in the bowl, so that means obviously that's the first sign we've seen in there of a carp definitive. That is a fish. Yeah. So, there might be the odd one starting to move down and hold around this area. So tomorrow morning when that sun gets up, we get the first bit of sun in the morning on that far bank. So.
Do you know, I'm not very confident of a morning bite in here, just because of previous, or everything being in the afternoon, and then yesterday afternoon me picking that one off. It always just seems, certainly from me, Owen's got a lot more experience fishing this lake, and not only that, fishing the elite carp masters, so he's more in tune with it, and I'm not very hopeful that we're going to get another bite, let's put it that way.
The rods are in the water, so we've always got a chance.
Well, yeah, there is that. There is that. And
just takes one bite, and we could have a big 40-pounder.
Yeah,
or,
it's not like
even one of those big commons. That big common I've been out in
yeah,
3 years, and she was last out
yeah.
at 46.
Mate, that'd be like that'd be better than winning it, wouldn't it? Let's be honest.
It would be a picture to see Ben O'Connor's face if he rocks up and we open up the sling and there's a possible mid 50-pound common in there, because he's been up to that fish for a very long time. He's seen it a few times swimming round in that lot, and he has said if anyone gets it, then they're going in. He don't care what time of year it is, they will be going for a swim. So it would certainly be nice to see his face if we peeled the mat back and saw that big one in there.
Well, we can only try, mate. And not only that, we had a right fiasco. This is why we're talking to you at this time. The Chinese was an absolute nightmare, let me tell you. As nice as it was to eat, it was a nightmare getting it here. Yeah. I mean, Owen actually went to collect it. It was his turn this time. And he went up there to collect it. Chinese man turned up, half of it's all over his car. Oh, sorry mate, I've only got half your order, the rest of it's all over my car. What did he say to you?
He said, I'll go get, you can take the half that's not spilt, and then I'll come back with the other half. And it's a 5-minute walk for us to go up there and get it. And I just said, look mate, I'd rather have it all at once rather than we get half, we have to eat the other half later on. We'd rather eat it one. So he took it all back, and I said I will be checking it when it comes back. And then he rocks up, tries charging me the full amount of 29 quid, which I said no. And then as I went to walk away, I realised he didn't have my 2 cans of Coke in there either. So
he come back with the fresh order and still forgot the pop as well.
So I said, I'll tell you what mate, it's 23 quid, because he was trying to charge me a £5 for delivery, and walked away. And I think his poor little face, he was a bit heartbroken. But to charge £5 delivery, he must be driving a Lamborghini or something like that to try and charge that much money.
Oh well, it's going to cost him more than £5 to clean it in elbow grease anyway.
Yeah, no, that's it. But yeah, no, it was a nice Chinese. It's our kind of custom. We've always done it, and everyone's done it for years on here. The guys always get a takeaway on the Saturday night.
Yeah.
And it's always something to look forward to, kind of thing.
Well, that's our synopsis, and that pretty much sums up our spirits at the moment. It's been good though, I have enjoyed it, and it's actually been good experience it on the frustrating side of things. So, I can't wait till the next one is what I'm trying to say.
We've got a lot to think about for the August match, because they are changing
it,
the running of it. It's going to be the 3 biggest fish count for that one. So that's kind of going to take a back seat for Christine, and it's going to make people really think about where they're going to go, because trying to catch 3 big fish in pepper alone, it's difficult enough over 48 hours, especially when the whole lake's full. It's no easy task, but then you've got to take into consideration you've got to catch 3 big fish, and there's big fish in Christine as well. Somebody gets a 30 and a couple of high 20s in there, and you get a 30 and a couple of low 20s in here, they're still going to beat you. So it's certainly going to give us a lot of food for thought over the next few months until that match, and kind of plan our attack on how we're going to try and approach and what lake we're going to aim for. As well as all the other guys, they're certainly thinking about it already and kind of trying to plan what they're going to do.
Yeah. I mean, when I was speaking to Sean earlier, Sean Mayo, he was saying if the only really good thing to come out of it is it doesn't really matter so much if you come out lower in the draw, because you've still got quite a good chance. And I'm agreeing with him on that. And not only that, when you see them hot pegs go like in Christine and that, you're not so worried. It'll be certainly it's going to make the draw interesting on. If you do come out first, it's like, where do I pick? Do you know what I mean? It's like, in my mind, I'd be picking where I think the big uns are going to be.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Where we can get them going on the conditions we got. If we can have it hot, if we can get them going on the top. If it's going to be overcast and that lot, what's going to work best at the time, kind of thing. So we are going to have to really put our minds together and think about it for the next draw, especially for that one. So.
Yeah. Well, I think it is bedtime. It's absolutely freezing again.
I've got 2 hoodies on.
Yeah, I am actually really ready to get into bed because it is that cold.
And you ate too much Chinese.
Yeah, I am a bit full. And I tell you what, we've got enough Chinese for breakfast, and we've got enough Chinese for dinner as well. So
take some home for the missus.
So on that note, wish us luck, and I'll see you again in the morning, bright and early. Well, good morning, and we are on a different camera this morning because we are starting to pack down. It's just gone 9 o'clock and nothing happened for us last night apart from you getting a liner this morning.
Yeah.
That's what you were roped to, wasn't it? But the scoreboards have changed even more since last night. Them fish have just stayed up the other end of the lake, and it's just been slim pickings up here. That is the synopsis. And like you say, it all does boil down to the draw. I mean, we was pretty much screwed before we started, really, weren't we?
Yeah, as soon as we got down like underneath kind of the 10th pick, then it was 10th out of the hat for us. It was kind of game over. We were hoping they were going to do what they do most of the time, which was move up here, but it's a good couple of teams in the running down there kind of thing. And Christine started to pick up now as well. Peg 21, which was our first pick, they've started picking fish up. Tommy and that know how to fish it well, so they've done the right thing. Ben Banner, hands off to him down in 10. They've worked hard, they've grafted, they've fished it right. They've sat on their hands. Since they put the rod on the islands, kind of thing, they pulled them off, didn't they? And then they've gone back onto the washing line method, and they've just kept it a rod each, and they've just taken it in turns on hitting the fish they've had. And they've been picking fish up through the night, and they're still down there now by all accounts. Peg 13's picked up another 38, haven't they? They picked up another big fish out of the fridge. So
yeah, I mean the big surprise for me this morning was just how well Christine has started to pick up. I mean, even Hillier and Son, I mean, they put a post on Facebook this morning. They had 3 fish in the retainer and 1 in the net. It just goes to show how quickly things can change in this match. I mean, you've seen it time and time again, how quick things. So it's like we've fished hard right through to the end, just with that in the back of our minds. But I think really the biggest surprise of all for me, from certainly where my perspective of it is, I'm just so surprised that none of the fish backed off the pressure down there and ended up here in the afternoon anyway, because usually it's a banker spot up here when the sun's out, isn't it?
when the sun's out and they've got pressure on down there and they're being caught the way they were yesterday, 9 times out of 10 they will move down here. They have done in the past. They're renowned for it. And I don't know if it's just where it's been such a cold wind, and it's coming from 2 different directions on our peg. It's coming up from our right and it's coming straight down the middle of the lake on our left as well. So it's kind of pushing, all the winds are pushing down onto our far margin, and they have been most of the weekend. So we are hopeful they would kind of move off the pressure, follow it down here, but they just haven't moved. I think they're still, as we said before in the previous comments and everything else, that they're still in winter mode.
Yeah.
They're not really that active. I mean, we saw a fish down in front of 2 last night while we were doing our evening updates now after our Chinese. He lumped out a couple of times. The guys at 2, they hadn't put a rod on it, which I think was a massive mistake for them.
Yeah.
I even messaged them on Facebook and told them, and they still haven't put a rod on it. So I think the fish are still down here, kind of in our margin on our right. We can't get to them. I had a spot trying to intercept them last night on our right. I had that liner off that rod early hours this morning, but just nothing occurred from it. So I've gone both rods. I'm back out to the far margin now. I know you brought your rod in this morning, didn't you, off the banking spot on the tree, and there was just, there's nothing happening. So we're at the minute we're aiming for either biggest fish prize or smallest fish prize. There's no way we're going to get in the top 3, 4 or 5 kind of thing.
No.
Even if we have a massive hit now, we're well out of the running. So the good thing is with this competition, there is the smallest fish and the biggest fish prize. So there's always that to go for, even if you haven't had any fish, or you've only had a couple of fish. Fishing it right up to the hooter, you've still got a chance. So, it's the biggest fish and smallest fish prizes. They are good prizes. I think the smallest fish they said was a brand new set of Rubens. Biggest fish prize last time was a bivvy that I was lucky enough to get, and it'll probably be the same again this time, or one of the high-end chairs donated by Fat Fish Tackle. So
yeah, and I think another thing worth mentioning as well, I mean, this match has been completely different to any other match. There hasn't been a £40 fish out, which is quite surprising, because normally you get 2 or 3 out at this time of year, don't you?
Yeah, well, there could have been, but they lost one on peg 14, unfortunately. So.
Yeah.
But I said a lot of the fish that are coming out though, they're the 20s, aren't they? They're the 20s.
Yeah, a
and
lot
doubles.
of 20s. Yeah.
I think the smaller fish have woken up now. They're G'ing up, kind of moving around a lot more. And yeah, we had that fish yesterday, and I think we had one fish under the bush in front of us, and Paul picked it off.
Yeah.
We saw something we thought was a fish yesterday roll to the right of the bush, didn't we? And we had a rod on it all night, nothing happened there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I definitely think if we'd have gone in with a little bit heavier on the bait and that, I don't even think we'd have had that bite, to be honest. I feel quite privileged to have caught a fish, do you know what I mean?
Definitely, it was certainly one out of the blue.
Definitely slim pickings. So yeah, I mean, if anything, it's made me even more keen and eager to get back here for the August match, and especially with the rule change as well. I think it's going to make it really interesting. So, you know, the next elite that goes up from me anyway, you know, well, that's going to be one to look forward to, certainly from my perspective. I mean, there's a lot of mixed reviews about, you know, the rule change. There's a lot that's not liking it, but then again, there's also a lot that is liking it as well. And 3 biggest fish with Christine in the mix as well, I think. Well, what's your thoughts on that, O?
I think it's a good rule. It's definitely going to kind of open up everyone's eyes a bit more, and it's going to give Pepper a good run for first, second, and third place, really.
Yeah.
Because there's more of a bigger stamp of bigger fish in Pepper than there is in Christine. There is big fish in Christine, don't get me wrong. I mean, they go up to high 30s in there, and somebody could have it off and they catch a couple of good 30s out there. The trick is going to be picking off 3 of the bigger fish out of Pepper. That's going to be the one. There's quite a few teams that can do it if they're in the right pegs and that lot. Again, it's going to be a case of on the draw, and also the weather conditions. We're going to have to keep a real close eye on that on the build up to it. And then obviously what the weather conditions are on that weekend. I'm certainly going to be up over the next couple of months for a session up here for a 48-hour, just to kind of enjoy the fishing and not be in that competition mode. I do like coming up here every now and again and fishing it without the pressure of the competition. So yeah,
I mean that's pretty much where we're at the moment. I am going to sort of sign off here, but we will finish up there on as we're doing the presentation, that kind of thing, so you can see what sort of weights come out and just see how frustrating it has been for us. You got anything else you'd like to add, O, before we go?
Hopefully you see us before then with a nice big 40-pound fish, or even a 4 or 5, 6-pound fish to take.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice.
It would be nice to finish on a high kind of thing. We've grafted and we've worked for it.
Yeah.
It would be nice just to get one more little reward kind of from it, but it's one of those things. It's the draw, I think, that's done us this time. You know, all the best pegs and certainly all of our top 5 and 6 picks were out very quickly, weren't they? So we didn't get anything wrong on the draw. Ben and Barry certainly predicted old Pepper was going to do it, New Pepper was going to do it, and yeah, they were pretty much on the ball with it. A lot of the big fish are still up there in winter mode.
They always call it, don't they?
Yeah, no, 9 times out of 10 their advice is very good, and it's something you listen to and you certainly take on board, and they were right this time, I think, unless Christine obviously does pick away and pick a few more fish and give Ben Banner a run for his money. But fair dues, Ben, you've done very well, mate, you and Martin, and yeah, it's about time you won one, so fingers crossed at the end that you do actually get it. So
yeah, well, that's it then. We are going to sign off. My arm's just about dropping off holding this camera up, so yes, we'll see you up there for the actual results. But until next time, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it's given you a good insight as to just how frustrating it can be. But we've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.
And in third place we have got Tommy Onslow and Adam Kingston with 11 fish for a total of £169.13. Come and get your money and trophy, boys, yeah? Well done. Well done. Again. Right, and in second place we have one of the newbies, and they got into the bailiffs and they had 7 fish, and their average size was quite good as well. To be fair, they did fish a good match. So second place was Michael Savage, Gareth London, £180.5. They're the spring runners up. Well done. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Barry.
always like saying this bit. And the new. He's been in it for a while now. I think he's come second before. He always comes fourth normally. They always end up winning bait off of me. This time they've gone 3 places higher. Fished a fantastic match. They had 9 fish out of the new lake, including some of the big ones as well, which was for £240.12. The new spring champions, Ben Banner and Martin Lamble. Well done, boys, yeah. Well done. Well done.